Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about 6 tight ends that I love for the 2023 fantasy football season. And we're not going to talk about the basic tight ends, right? We're not going to talk about the tight ends that everyone loves. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, Kim Kardashian, right? Everyone already loves those tight ends. We know how great they are. So we are going to talk about the tight ends going a little bit deeper in the draft. We'll be talking about guys that go as early as the tight end 5 and guys that go as late as over the tight end number 20. But before we could get on into the tight ends that I love, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 tight ends that I love for the 2023 fantasy football season. We begin with the first tight end that I love for the 2023 fantasy football season, Darren Waller of the New York Football Giants. Current underdog ADP, tight end 5 at pick 68.9, 0.1 picks off of being picked at number 69. Very nice. I like. So last season, Darren Waller in Viva Las Vegas did not have that great of a season. He only played in 9 games, finished as the tight end 28 and the tight end 10 in half PPR points per game. He had 43 targets, 31st at tight end, 28 receptions, 35th, 388 receiving yards, 27th, and 3 total touchdowns, 20th, though he was 5th in yards per target and 3rd in yards per reception. Every single report out of training camp about Darren Waller has been nothing except for incredibly positive. Darren Waller has been dominating the defense in the red zone. Darren Waller, in my opinion, has the upside to score the most amount of touchdowns at the tight end position. Now, obviously, it might be hard to overtake a guy like Travis Kelce, who is a touchdown monster, but if this Giants offense in the red zone is basically a funnel to Saquon Barkley and Darren Waller, we are going to be very excited about the season that Darren Waller has. Match that with the fact that Darren Waller might lead this team in targets. He might be the #1 target for Daniel Jones this season. They have guys like Isaiah Hodgins, who I really like, but it wouldn't shock me if Darren Waller out-targeted him. They drafted Jalen Hyatt. They still have Wan'Dale Robinson. They have Sterling Shepard, as well as a couple other guys in this ragtag wide receiver room of the New York Giants. So at the end of the day, Darren Waller has the upside to be the #1 target in an offense that is significantly better under Brian Daboll, with yet another year of that Brian Daboll system for Daniel Jones, who looked significantly better from last season compared to the past couple of years. I am all in on Darren Waller this year. Again, I genuinely believe he has the upside to karate kick Travis Kelce in the forehead and take over as the tight end #1 in fantasy football. I think this Giants offense is very underrated, and again, I really do think Darren Waller could lead the New York Football Giants in targets. At number 2, we move to Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons, underdog ADP, tight end 6 at pick 75.2. Now, I fully recognize that Kyle Pitts might feel like a ticking time bomb to many fantasy football players, right? If you drafted him in his rookie or sophomore season over the last 2 years, things haven't really gone all that well. In his first 2 seasons, I was someone who faded Kyle Pitts. I felt as though Kyle Pitts' ADP was absolutely fucking egregious. It was ridiculous how high he was going in fantasy football drafts. But now his ADP has started to plummet, right? He's the tight end 6. He's no longer this consensus top 5, top 4 tight end in fantasy football drafts, and he's going a lot later than normal. There's going to be some drafts where everyone is scared shitless of drafting Kyle Pitts, and he falls into the 7th or the 8th round. Now, again, I'm not saying that's going to happen in every single draft, but that is definitely possible. The Atlanta Falcons offense as a whole is far from ideal, right? They have Desmond Ridder under center. It would be hard for Ridder to be worse than he was last season. If I'm being honest with you, this is going to be a very run-heavy team, but I'm willing to take this shot on Kyle Pitts because of how late he is going in drafts, because I talk about this a bunch on the channel. The deeper you get into the draft, the more risky you are able to be, right? In the first couple of rounds, you want to be wrapping the Trojan, the Durex around your team, but as you get deeper and deeper into the draft, you want to take risks. I understand that Kyle Pitts could completely flame out here. Kyle Pitts could be a huge bust as the tight end 6. He could finish as like tight end 25, right? The Atlanta Falcons offense is a disaster. Kyle Pitts just doesn't get targeted for some fucking reason, and he sucks. But I think that when you're drafting a tight end in this range, I am looking for that top 3, number 1 upside, and I genuinely think that Kyle Pitts' skill set tailors himself to potentially finish ahead of a guy like Travis Kelce. Now, I don't think he'll be the tight end 1, but could he finish in the range of Hockenson, Andrews, and Kelce in the top 3? I definitely think so. He played in 10 games last year, was the tight end 20 and half PPR points per game, tight end 33 on the season, 59 targets, 24th, 28 receptions, 35th, 356 receiving yards, 30th, and 2 total touchdowns, 32nd, though he was 7th in yards per reception, 5th in yards per team pass attempt, and he only had 1 drop on his 59 targets, which ranks 46th at tight end. This guy, coming out of college, was basically set up to be the second coming of whoever you think the best tight end in the NFL is, right? This guy, legitimately, while he doesn't have these crazy blocking skills, he's like another wide receiver for the team. So I love, again, the skill set that Kyle Pitts possesses. I get that it is a risk. He could completely bend your team over, but you can kind of afford to get your team skull fucked the deeper you go into the draft, right? In the first 3-4 rounds, if you had to draft Kyle Pitts there, obviously it would be a big no-no. But where he's coming right now off the board at pick 75.2, I want to take shots on that skill set. And I hope that while I understand this is going to be a very run-heavy offense, that if Pitts, who has scored, I believe, 3 total touchdowns in his career, 2 last year, 1 in his rookie season, if he just gets like 7 touchdowns, right? Just some positive touchdown regression, then he's going to be sitting very pretty at tight end this year. Moving to my next tight end that I love, we got Dalton Schultz of the Houston Texans. Current underdog ADP, tight end 13 at pick 137.7. If you guys haven't ended up enjoying this far, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Now, we skipped over the range of guys like Evan Ingram, David Njoku, guys like that, Pat Freiermuth. Now, I'm fine drafting any of those guys, but at some point, it's like, do I even feel way more confident in Freiermuth or Njoku compared to Schultz? And the answer, honestly, is no. Maybe Njoku or Freiermuth, one of those guys, have more big game upside because they're on better offenses. But I think at the end of the year, when push comes to shove, Dalton Schultz is going to finish in a similar range as them. And Dalton Schultz is another one of these guys that could end up being the number 1 target on their team. Again, coming off the board is the tight end 13 at pick 137.7. Last year, he was on the Dallas Cowboys. Kind of disappointed based upon ADP. Now, he wasn't a huge bust because he was still a top 10 tight end in half PPR, tight end 11 and half PPR points per game. But based upon where you drafted him, right, thinking of that insane upside that he could possess in this Dallas Cowboys offense, it definitely stunk where you took him, right? Again, didn't really sink your battleship, but he didn't take you over the top. 15 games played last year in Dallas, 89 targets, 5.9 per game, number 7 at tight end. 57 receptions, 3.8 per game, number 11 at tight end. 577 receiving yards, 38.5 per game, number 10. 5 total touchdowns, 8th. He was 9th in true catch rate with 93.4%, 13th in yards per team pass attempt, and 16th in dominator rating. This is not the same Houston Texans team over the last couple of years, right? We now have CJ Stroud at quarterback, a competent quarterback compared to giraffe neck Davis Money Mills. We now have a head coach that isn't Lovie Smith, so that just has to be better, right? Anyone with a brain is better than Lovie Smith as a head coach. So this is a solid situation for Schultz. And again, there is a very clear path towards him being either the number 1 or number 2 target on this team. They have my boy Nico Collins, and I hope, based upon how much I've drafted Nico Collins thus far, that Nico Collins is the number 1 target. But I will acknowledge that Nico Collins has never really been consistent at the NFL level, and there is a path for Schultz to overtake him as the number 1 target. Same thing goes for John Mechie. I root for John Mechie. His story is incredible, right? All that he went through last season. Now good to go this season. I'll be rooting for him. But at the end of the day, I really do think Schultz could be the number 1 target on this team. I think considering the fact that CJ Stroud is a rookie, I think he's going to look to take that big safety net in Dalton Schultz to throw the ball to a bunch. I think he could be one of the top 5 tight ends in targets. And where you're drafting him is tight end 13, he doesn't really need to finish as the tight end 1 if he finishes inside of the top 5, which I think is definitely in the realm of possibilities for Dalton Schultz. You should be relatively excited. And again, he could easily surpass guys like like Freiermuth and Njoku, who are getting drafted ahead of him. Moving now to the tight end number 4 that I love, we have Tyler Higbee of the LA Rams, underdog ADP, tight end 14 at pick 141.6. Now, I have been someone that has been banging the drum aggressively for Tyler Higbee all summer long, like that Kid Rock song. Tight end, 9.5 PPR last year and 18.5 PPR points per game. Now, Cooper Kupp's health is up in the air right now. Based upon everything that I've read, it seems like he's going to be good to go soon. But again, that is definitely something to monitor. While technically Higbee might fall ass backwards into more targets if Cooper Kupp misses some time, the offense won't be able to move the ball anywhere near as effectively. So in order for Tyler Higbee to really kind of smash as the tight end 14 like he's Hulk, you really do kind of need Cooper Kupp to at least stay healthy for a majority of the season. Again, last year, tight end 9.5 PPR, tight end 18.5 PPR points per game. He played in all 17 games, finishing with over 100 targets, 108 targets, 6.4 per game, number 4, 72 receptions, 4.2 per game, number 5, 620 receiving yards, 36.5 per game, number 9, and 3 total touchdowns, 20th. He was 14th in dominator rating, though he was 4th in target share. Very important. It's important for a tight end to get a lot of targets. Obviously, Cooper Kupp is the alpha, the head of the table, like fucking Roman Reigns, right? But Tyler Higbee could be the number 2 target in this offense. They have Van Jefferson, Puka Nuwara. They have some other options to throw the ball to. They got Cam Akers as well, but it's not like Cam Akers is the second coming of Austin Eckler or Alvin Kamara or Christian McCaffrey, and he's going to out-target Higbee, right? That would be very unlikely. That'd be cool for me, as someone who really likes Cam Akers, right? If Cam Akers miraculously turned into this excellent pass-catching back, but I don't think that's going to happen. So let's be honest with you. In terms of pecking order, it's going to be Kupp, then it's going to be Higbee, then it's going to be Van Jefferson, and then it is going to be Puka as the 5th option. So this is a great spot to be in for a tight end. And the same sentiment I talked about with Schultz applies to Higbee. Higbee could easily outscore Freiermuth, Njoku, those guys that are going ahead of him, right? These tight ends that are going a couple rounds higher, Evan Ingram, right? Wouldn't shock me at all. Evan Ingram is probably the 3rd or 4th target on the Jags. Now, the Jags offense is way better than the Rams, but that doesn't necessarily always correlate to fantasy points, right? Higbee should be the number 2 guy in the pecking order. He's going to see a lot more targets. The question comes with the touchdowns, right? If Matthew Stafford stays healthy, I understand this Rams team is going to be far from one of the best teams in the NFL, but I also don't think they are going to just flop over like a fish and be one of the worst offenses in the National Football League. So I'm a big fan of Higbee, again, going outside of the top 12 tight ends. Certainly should be like a shoo-in to finish top 12. I know that's not really going to help you, right? Having the tight end 12 doesn't help you win your league, but he definitely has top 5 upside. And on a weekly basis, I think if the Rams offense really starts clicking, Kupp's healthy, Stafford's healthy, then Tyler Higbee is going to definitely have some top 3 tight end finishing weeks. Before we can get on into the tight end number 4 and tight end number 5 that I love, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends, our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play best ball fantasy football this summer. This Sunday, I'll be live from 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on for 10 to 12 hours doing best ball drafts. You can sign up using code NOTORIOUS for a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. You deposit 100, they give you an additional 150, additional 50, 25, additional 25. The minimum deposit is $10. Make sure you guys do that because best ball is a great way to prepare for your fantasy drafts. And the best part about best ball is there's no waivers, there's no trades, there's no in-season management. So you just get to do the best thing, the draft, and that's it. You can come back out to the end of the season and potentially win a load of money. They have the biggest fantasy football contest ever, and they also have some smaller tournaments like the Puppy 3 recently released. $5 to enter, 150 max entries, $1 million in total prizes, $200,000 to first place. Like I said, it's a great way to prepare for your fantasy football drafts. They also have what are basically like leagues. They have, instead of these big tournaments, it's just you versus 11 other people with as low of a buy-in as $3, and the first 2 places make money. Make sure you guys check that out. If you have any questions about Underdog, leave them in the comments. Click on the link in the video description or use promo code NOTORIOUS to activate that offer. It would help me out a ton, and it's also going to help you because, again, no one likes anything more than free money, and that's what Underdog is giving you. So moving now to the tight And number 5 that I love, and this should be a shocker to no one, we got the boy Sam LaPorta, tight end of the Detroit Lions, underdog ADP, tight end 17 at pick 149.4. The last tight end is going undrafted in a lot of leagues that we're going to discuss, so he's the guy where if you full-on punt tight end, you say YOLO, fuck it, I'm not drafting a tight end. I said YOLO in the year of 2023. That's insane. But, you know, fuck it, I'm just going to punt tight end. I'm going to wait until the end of the draft. Then that's the guy to do it with. Sam LaPorta, also kind of a guy you can do that with, of the Lions. Like I said, tight end 17 on underdog, pick 149.4, one of my highest owned tight ends on underdog. Lions.com's Tim Twentyman, fire name, reports Sam LaPorta is expected to have a role right away and be an important part of this offense. The Athletics' Colton Pouncey, two cool names, said Sam LaPorta looks like the tight end one. He was the pick 34 in the second year of the second round of the 2023 NFL draft. He played 4 years at Iowa. Iowa, if you guys know anything about college football, I'm not a huge college football guy. I do watch tape after the season on these players, though. Iowa is the tight end factory for the NFL. Just producing upper echelon tight end talent in the NFL level. 2022, 21 years old. He plays in 12 games at Iowa, 58 receptions on 94 targets for 656 yards, 11.3 yards per reception, only one receiving touchdown, but a 27% target share and a 61.7% catch rate. He was 91st percentile 40-yard dash with a 4.59, 85th in speed score with a 108.4. He had his breakout season in college in 2021, and this guy is a broken tackle machine. In 2021 and 2022, he had 30 broken tackles on 111 catches. I think early on in the season, we are going to see a whole lot of Sam LaPorta in Detroit, especially with Jameson Williams on that suspension for the first 6 games. I project that Sam LaPorta will be the starting tight end on the team week 1, and that seemed to be the case in preseason week number 1 as well. Now again, don't fully overreact to preseason, but take the information in, gauge it how you want, right? Don't fucking fully overreact to be like, Sam LaPorta is going to be a top 5 tight end in fantasy, but don't also be like, that means nothing. He was starting a preseason. It does mean something, at least in my opinion. So LaPorta looked great at Iowa. This is a team besides Amon-Ra St. Brown is kind of devoid of receiving options. I guess you can include Jahmyr Gibbs in there as well. Jahmyr Gibbs is a great pass catcher out of college. Looks to replicate that in the NFL. But Sam LaPorta here, solid spot for him. Detroit, we know Goff kind of does like to use the tight ends. There were a couple of random name tight ends that sound like Madden-generated names that had solid games last year for the Lions, right? And then Hockenson as well when he was there. Hockenson gone, LaPorta in. Now, there's always going to be this narrative that rookie tight ends never pay off, and I get that, right? That may scare some people, but Pitts had a pretty good season his rookie year. The problem was people drafted him like he was the second coming of Gronk or something like that, right? Kelsey. We're getting LaPorta at tight end 17. There's levels to this shit, right? There's different levels. LaPorta is basically going close to undrafted. So if you take LaPorta and he ends up sucking donkey cock for fantasy, right, because he's a rookie, no harm, no foul. You just cut him, right? If Pitts sucked his rookie year where people were drafting him, you had to hold on to him for dear life, right? Because you're not cutting that guy. You drafted that early on in drafts, especially early on in the season. So let me know what you guys think about Sam LaPorta, and who is your favorite tight end to draft this season. And don't give me no, I love Travis Kelce. Everyone loves Travis Kelce, right? So moving now to the tight end number 6 that I love, Tyler Conklin of the New York Jumbo Jets. Underdog ADP, tight end 25, pick 189.9. Tight end 16 last year in half PPR and 22 in half PPR points per game. 17 games played last year with 16 starts. 87 targets, 5.1 per game, number 8 at tight end. 58 receptions, 3.4 per game, number 8 at tight end. 550 receiving yards, 32.4 per game, number 12 at tight end, and 3 total touchdowns, 20th. If you guys remember fantasy from last season, Conklin was a guy that had a stretch of games where if he was on your waiver wire and your tight end was a little down bad, right? You were a little down bad at the tight end position, you picked him up and you played him. I played him a bunch of times in my Superflex league and in my 14-team league that I'm in last season. He was performing with quarterbacks that don't start in the NFL anymore. Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco. Is Joe Flacco even on a team? Who knows? I love cool Joe Flacco. He's elite, but not anymore. And then Mike White, the backup, the bench warmer for Tua Tagovailoa. So with 3 absolute trash cans outside of Mike White. I think Mike White kind of has that dog in him, so he has a couple good games in him. He's not actually that good, but he's got a couple good games in him. Conklin still performed. Again, in offense, that was dog shit. Conklin looks good. Now, the receiver core, outside of Garrett Wilson, is very suspect. They got Lazard. They've got me, Cole Hardman. They've got the fucking corpse, Weekends and Bernie style of Randall Cobb. Could Conklin be the number 2 target? I don't think he will. But there's going to be a lot of games where he is. This is an offense that's going to be scoring points. They're going to look to run the ball a lot with Dalvin Cook as well as Breece Hall, depending on when Breece Hall is healthy. Like, if he's going to play week 1, how much is he going to play? I think that's still very up in the air. But by like halfway through the season, Dalvin Cook, Breece Hall, full-on running back by committee. I love Conklin, man. He just feels like he's going to have a bunch of games where you felt good about starting him. He's not a guy you want to start weekly every single game, right? Week 1 against the Bills, that might be a little bit scary, right? To throw him to the Wolves there, right? First game of Rodgers in Gotham in New York, right? But we know Rodgers does, if he has a good tight end, if he has a tight end that is legitimately skilled, he will throw him the ball. We just know that from the past. So I like this spot for Conklin in New York with the Jets. Again, I'm not expecting top 5 at the end of the season. He's the tight end 25. But a tight end 10 finish from the tight end 25 feels great. Whereas if you draft, say, Higbee as the tight end 14, if he finishes as tight end 10, you're like, that wasn't all that great of a pick. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button down below. Make sure you guys do check out Underdog Fantasy promo code Notorious for a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. Again, we're going to be live Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, all the way through the day. Ripping drafts. If you are on Underdog and you're not on Underdog, make sure you sign up so you can draft with me there. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great one. And as always,